My name is Bob Stone, the chair of the Underhill Selectboard. I'm going to call this regular scheduled select board meeting to order. Today's date is March 13th. It's Thursday at 6 o'clock. We have an agenda that has been prepared in advance. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Sorry. Yeah. Any adjustments? Anybody? Dan? I just have something Jennifer wanted me to read regarding a grant, but I can do that, maybe at the end.
Okay, so we'll do that after the closing of the public comment period, or why don't we do it just before the closing, or after the discuss the goals and agenda of the ensuing year?
Okay.
Anything else?
Well, I did forward you some documents in a little packet. Did everybody receive that about it's on the agenda under 12 Dumas Road, but it just wasn't included in the packet. However, I don't think some of the documents are appropriate to be in the packet. So, but I can talk about that when we get there.
Okay. Very good. Opening public comment, we'll go to the virtual world first, and then we'll come to the real world. So is there anyone in the virtual environment that has a public comment for the select board? Seeing and hearing none, we'll come to the real world. You guys have anything you'd like to say during the public comment period?
Is this the only public comment that's going to be for the whole meeting?
So there's two times that the select board pauses to hear from the public. So we do one in the beginning and one towards the end. So this would be your time to say something now, or you can wait until approximately 7:15 to talk to the board.
Or you could use both.
Or both. Or you could talk at both times.
Well, I'm program, but I'm here
No, that's okay. You're doing
primarily to talk about the purchase and actually have a special meeting for the purchase of another tandem truck. I have a lot of questions about that. For once we have a long-term liability of $750,000 on page 21 of the town report. And then we just got a new truck in, which is another $300,000 that's going to go on next year's. There is a couple things coming due, I think this year, but they're pretty small amounts according to the rest of it. I was just wondering some of the things, and I don't know, I really don't even really know why we're discussing having a special town meeting. Because as it stands right now, there's four tandems at the town garage, a spare single axle, which was just leased in the fall, and then the old international spare that's still there. So we have 4 drivers and 6 trucks right now at the town garage. I don't know why the oldest truck wasn't turned in when this new one came. I thought that was originally the plan, to turn in the oldest one when you get the new one. I don't know why that didn't happen, and I don't know why we're now using 4 tandems on all the routes, when originally the first tandem was bought pretty much primarily just to haul town sand, and now we're up to 4, 1 for each driver. I also want to say that the last truck we just got in was given to the driver that had the single axle, and I don't believe he's real happy running that tandem on the route he has, which is all the nooks and crannies and small roads in town. And I don't, let's see and I was just wondering if, why those things are happening, and why are we even ordering another truck at this point, when we have 3, why we have, all 4 of them running, why we didn't turn in the old one, and if we do have a special meeting, is it going to be like a town meeting where it's a hand vote, or will it be Australian ballot? It seems to me that a hand vote after coming to this meeting when nobody's here but me, it seemed like an awful one-sided affair as to what you're trying to get at is finding out if everybody wants this other truck or not. So at this point, that's all I'll have to say until maybe later. Okay?
Well, thank you, Steve. Appreciate your time. Is there any other public comment? Seeing and hearing none. We're on to the next item. Welcome, Shara. I guess we can go down the line and everyone can introduce themselves, for the public, I guess, and go from there.
So as long as it's green, you just have to.
Okay. Thank you, Shara Tarule. Excited to be here. Is there anything more expected of me or should include?
That's perfectly fine.
Oh, sorry.
We go right down the line.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon. I'm Maureen Collins-Kolb.
I'm Patty Richards. I live on Pleasant Valley Road toward the Cambridge side, and I've been on the board, I want to say 4-ish years, 5 years? Come on, 5 years, I think.
Seems like yesterday.
I know, for a long time.
Right. I'm Bob Stone.
And I'm Dan Steinbauer. I live on Range Road. I've been on the board. Maybe this is my 6th year.
Keep it up and we'll have to name a road after you.
And I had 6 years before, a decade ago.
Right?
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, welcome everyone. All right, the next item on the agenda is to discuss bridge number 7, the bond vote and notification issues. Brad, that's yours.
Okay, so unfortunately, woke me up in the middle of the night, one night, and I was thinking to myself, I think there was more we had to do with the bond vote. So I came in here, I think it was on a Saturday, I came in here and I looked through my emails and I saw something back in November. Bob Fletcher is our attorney who handles all bond type situations, that's his specialty. And he did have a note. He says, well, a bond vote is, a bond vote's an extra level up from an annual meeting. So as far as notice and so forth. So we did everything exactly right. However, I failed to warn it in the paper, and I believe I'm going to get a roadmap for the next time, which we'll discuss. But I believe it was 3 consecutive weeks in the newspaper, which seems a little antiquated today because not many people read the newspaper, but nonetheless, it's the rules. So in order for him to actually write an opinion and give us, the go-ahead to take the next step, we need to have all the boxes checked. So I take full responsibility for it. We had a lot of stuff going on. We're moving boxes and so forth and everything else, but nonetheless, it's just what happened. So unfortunately, we should do it again. And to that end, I'll just say that it's important that, especially, I'm going to explain this all when we go for the grant application in April. And I don't think it'll be an issue because, as you can see, I included in your packet the abstract from town meeting, and the bond, passed overwhelmingly, 458 to 67. But I think it's important that when we go to put it out to bid, the bridge out to bid this fall or this winter, that the contractors know we've secured funding. So that's going to be important. Because a second thought was, well, could we wait till the next annual meeting? But I'd just as soon not do that. I feel confident knowing that the voters are supportive of this because it was done at the annual meeting. This is a procedural problem, and I apologize to all the voting members to make them come out again. But it's what we have to do. That's basically all I have to say with the Bridge 7. I will give you a couple quick updates. So we received our permits from the Army Corps of Engineers. We have that permit in place. Russ and Mike Weisel and I met yesterday, or 2 days ago, yesterday, I guess. And I texted Chris Brunel, he's the river scientist, and I just asked him the question about, when we could actually get in the river to start the work, or the brook. So basically, and we're still awaiting his permit, stream alterations permit. But he basically said to me, he said, if there's rainbow trout at all in that brook, it's July 1. But if there's no rainbow trout, it's typically June 1st. So again, all the more reason to, if we could get the jump on it in June, that would be great. But we'll have to see what his permit says when it comes through.
Thank you. So a new bond vote would have to be an Australian ballot type initiative, not a town meeting like voice vote, correct, Brad?
Yeah, so when we talk about a special town meeting, it's different from an annual meeting. So annual meeting, we pass the budget from the floor. We do entertain some articles from the floor, but when you have a special meeting, it will all be done by Australian ballot, no matter what the question is.
So would it be appropriate to have an informational meeting like we've had in the past before this scheduled vote?
Yes.
That would be coming up in the future?
Yes, we're required to go through the same motions as town meeting. So basically we would, I'd ask if we need to do the resolution of necessity again. And I have a feeling we may, because it mentions the informational hearing. So we'll probably just, alter the public information to be, the date and time of the hearing, or the informational hearing. And then we'll probably you'll be signing or considering to sign the same resolution of necessity. You'd sign the warning, just like we did for town meeting. We'd have an informational hearing, which now has been, used to be, it was always 10 days before the meeting. So now it's 30 days before the meeting. So it gives us a little more flexibility. We could have it earlier. I did talk to Sherry, and if theoretically we had a warning in front of you on the 27th, this next meeting, we could probably be looking at a special town meeting in May, the first Tuesday or the second Tuesday in May. So when you sign the warning, the annual or the special meeting needs to be in the 30 to 40 day window. So that's what we'd be looking at, a May 6th or May 6th or May 13th, potentially. But we'd iron all that out and have it for you for the next packet and the next meeting.
And we would have that vote probably here.
Absolutely.
Not at the school. Yep.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Brad, for the update. Anybody have any questions? Dan?
So we needed to have this bond vote in the first place before we got all the estimates even, because the state wanted us to prove that the town would pay for it. Now, for clarity, the state has said that we need to do it all properly.
No. So
they won't acknowledge the fact that there was overwhelming support.
No. So you're getting a little bit ahead of yourself there, I think. So I'm saying, so first of all, the last V-Trans district person we were dealing with, that was his opinion. He really wanted to see that we had our bond in place. So the deadline for the application is April 15th. And it was up until the end of May last year, I was still having discussions with him about they make all their decisions, really close to the award date. They whittle all these things down. They're looking at all these projects. They're trying to weigh them out. I'm thinking with the new person, David Hosking, and I have a call into him because Mike Weisel and I would like to go out and meet with him in person, introduce ourselves, explain the situation. I would basically explain that, yeah, we have approval by the voters, but we had a procedural issue. So I would think they would be understanding about that. And even if they weren't, if they said, well, you need to, make sure you have your bonding secured, well, I think there'd still be time in between the special meeting and the time they make their decision. So basically in the application, I would include this abstract of the town meeting saying that, here's the vote, but by the way, there were some procedural issues, so we'll have to address those. And then, I'd probably include the warning, because theoretically, if the application was due by April 15th, you'd have a signed warning. I think they would be understanding regarding that.
And there wouldn't be enough time to wait until the next town meeting.
There would not be enough time, I don't think, because, well, there would be. The problem with the grants are good July 1. So if we get the grant, if we apply for the grant in April, we get the grant, it's good July 1 this year. And we wouldn't use any funds, but we'd use that to say, here, we've secured this grant, and then we have bond approval. So then when we put it out to bid to the contractors, they would be assured that we have funding.
Okay, so it's more for the contractors than for the state.
Yes.
I understand.
And David Hosking may have a different opinion than the last district. We were really caught by surprise that I think he just wanted to ensure, he didn't want to tie up money while we waited to do our process, right? If there was another town that was shovel ready to go, he'd rather use that money, is what he said, to give to them to get something they're going to do that year. But I would explain, if all works out and we can get in the stream June 1, that would be the best case scenario. And then our grant would be effective and our bond would be, we'd have our bond funding secured. So just a little hiccup in the road. And again, I apologize, take full responsibility. It was my bad. So, but live and learn. So we'll get it right next time.
Dan said you can park across the street from on Fridays.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
Thank you, Brad.
All right. Well, moving on to 12 Dumas Road, the FEMA buyout. Brad, that's you again.
Yeah. So I'll just explain for Shara's sake. So we've been in the process of a FEMA buyout at 12 Dumas Road for the past
Several years.
Seems like several years, I'd say. Several years. A lot has changed with the real estate market. We've had the grant amended once because real estate went up. It's a fully funded grant. That means there's no out of pocket from the town or the resident, which is pretty unusual. And things really sped up about a week and a half ago, right around just after town meeting, where the resident has found a place, a new home. And she basically has a contract on that new home contingent on all of this. So things got really fast tracked. The title opinion, so in the packet I gave you, there's a cover letter, and I have copies of it if you'd like to see it, but I emailed it out. So if anyone like a hard copy, you're welcome to have one.
No.
Okay, so basically Dave Rue, who I'm working with our attorneys, spelled out what is happening. So the key takeaway here is, and you have, there's a special warrant that Jennifer prepared before she left on vacation. So it's a check for $378,000, and this is to go into the attorney's escrow account. But as Dave said here, by no stretch of the imagination would these funds be released until we secured the money from FEMA. So it's basically, it just needs to show up in their escrow account. So they have funds secured, and then the funds would be released from FEMA and the state, and then the closing, which is scheduled, I think, for March 31st. So basically, he spelled out and he gave a motion. He recommended a motion for the select board that I think, if you don't have it, Bob, I can give you a hard copy here, but I guess I just, if any questions.
So we, the town of Underhill, front the 378,000
No,
to the
no.
attorney?
No, well,
Those funds are coming from where?
those funds are coming, we're writing a check to secure the funds, right? These 378,000, which we have, right?
So
But then-
that's what I said.
Right,
We're
right,
fronting
right.
the money.
We're fronting the money, but it's not going to be cash. This isn't going to be cash necessarily. It's going to sit in their escrow account. I think if you read here, it says, rest assured, our office will not close on a transaction and issue any checks for closing unless we know the town has received a check for the closing funds from the state.
Okay, so they're going to hold our check.
Yes,
They're not going to deposit it and cash it.
that's what I understand.
Okay, and so we will get the FEMA funds of roughly 378,000, and then that will be what is used for the actual closing.
Exactly.
Okay,
So we'll basically, it all, as with any real estate closing, it all happens kind of simultaneously, right? So we will have the funds and it'll just be a one-way transfer.
okay.
I read the title opinion. Sherry and I read the title opinion today and all the documents. We had one little small correction on the taxes, but it all looked to be in really good order. And yeah, it's just happening very, very fast because she found a place.
So with all the chaos going on at the federal government,
This is all secured money.
okay, but there's chaos going on at the federal government level. In the event they do not release FEMA, they being FEMA doesn't release the 378,000, then what?
Well, first of all, I think all this money is in the state coffers already.
Just want to ask that
yeah,
question.
I
In the
can-
event, for whatever reason, that check doesn't come to the town, is it my
Well, right, so we won't
understanding we
close.
wouldn't close?
We wouldn't
Okay.
close.
I just want to clarify all that,
Sure.
given all the things that are in flux in this universe.
It's my understanding that FEMA has already distributed the funds to the state.
Okay.
So what you're talking about here are mitigation funds, right? And this mitigation goes all the way back to Irene, I think.
Okay.
So they're still working off Irene funds. I believe they're in the state coffers because he does say closing funds from the state.
Okay.
So yes, there'll be, and then there's a bunch of documents that will come from FEMA in the ensuing days here. And so we will know for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we would never close or never
Okay.
release these funds unless we had the money secured.
I would like to make this motion clarify that it's contingent on the town actually receiving the funds from FEMA. if it's
Well,
possible.
doesn't the motion say that?
I just want to be crystal clear on it. It sort of says it, but I want to be very super clear on it.
Yeah, I trust these guys explicitly, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, this is no
Yeah.
reflection on anything, the work that you've done, that the state has done. This is a reflection on the chaos that we have going on at
Yeah.
the federal level.
So I think it says that.
I just want to use very plain language so that I understand it. If I can understand it, then somebody else will understand it. It's so simple.
I guess when we have an attorney that's representing the town, I would trust that the town attorney would, they've taken the time to write what they believe is the appropriate verbiage for a motion that they are our attorney and they're acting in our best interest, and they know what our interests are, that we want to acquire that property through this FEMA buyout, and that there would be no liability on the town's part of acquiring the property without these funds from FEMA. So I understand your concern. I personally don't have the same reservation, I think, that you do. But if you would like to have a motion or to tweak that verbiage, I would just caution what that language would be.
Yeah, I would like to change the suggested motion slightly, saying it's contingent on the town receiving FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program funds. A slight tweak.
And you would just, like, at the beginning of the
I'd put it at
sentence,
the end.
or-
I'd put it at the end, I would
Okay.
say.
Or we could
including-
put it straight at the end. I could read the whole thing and then add that verbiage contingent on the town receiving the appropriate FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program dollars.
And I think you're probably right, Bob, in the way that it's written, but I also feel like there is no harm in doing the belts and suspenders of this motion and just being extra clear, given all of the things, moving pieces in the world that are complicated and outside of our control. I think adding that, I wouldn't find.
It's fine.
So-
It's fine with me. If you want to go ahead and word that, just be prepared that if it's not, then we will have to act quickly to
Okay.
revisit this. If
Yep.
this comes back to the attorney once the minutes are prepared and they say, for whatever reason, hold on, then we will have to turn around and have an emergency meeting to tweak this. So,
Understood.
okay.
I think you'll be fine just adding that if you want.
So if you want to
I'll make the motion.
take the ball and run with it.
I move to approve a warrant to attorneys SP and F PCIOLTA account for $378,000, being the funds needed for the town to close on its purchase of Patricia Gray's property at 12 Dumas Road through the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, including paying its share of the outstanding property taxes, to waive any recording fees associated with the transaction, to accept the warranty deed with certain deed restrictions, and to authorize Town Administrator Brad Holden to execute any and all closing documents, including the deed restrictions in any FEMA required forms. Not done yet. This motion is contingent on the town receiving from the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program $378,000. Is that good?
Prior to closing,
Prior to closing.
or simultaneously with closing.
Simultaneously with closing.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
In the motion, it says receiving from FEMA, and we aren't really receiving from FEMA. It's already been received, as Brad pointed out.
Well, I'm not, I don't know the particulars. It's my opinion that, it's my understanding that the state has the money, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
I know who doesn't have the money.
Me, or us.
And it's me. So I don't have $378,000 to buy 12 Dumas Road, but I'm sure somebody at FEMA or somebody at the state of Vermont does. Any other discussion?
Thank you, Brad, for all your work on this. It's been extraordinary having you go through this.
Yeah, it's the second time now. I did the one, I signed my life away on the first one, so I know kind of a little bit what it's about, but I would just like to say that I hope you read the Exhibit A that kind of talks about compatible uses. So we can look forward to discussing future uses of the property. very limited as they may be.
Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of the previous worded motion regarding 12 Dumas Road, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Opposed with a nay? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
So I would say
Thanks,
that would have, oh, no problem. I would say that would have taken care of the approval of the warrant, so you don't have to do that again.
This works, Brad. You might get your car parking spot back in the parking lot on Friday.
Back on this side.
So next up, and we're 2 minutes behind schedule, Russ, I apologize, but you're up 6:32, and it's the Underhill Highway Supervisor's turn in the hot seat. And the first thing is to talk about the continuation of dump truck replacement discussion.
So I don't know if I'm supposed to start that discussion, but I will just start out by saying that as of today, we are down 2 trucks. I'm glad that it's not snowing and blowing outside, but the new truck is down to Viking, having some warranty repairs made on the dump, or the equipment side of things that arose at the last storm, but they are promptly taking care of that. And our 2018 is broke down again. So that is at Allegiance being repaired. So I'm not sure how you want to start this next continuation, but I know the last thing we talked about was having a special meeting. I think the ball is in your court, I believe, unless you tell me different.
So my memory of how we left this is that we have instructed to have a stock truck with the town of Underhill's name on it, one of 2 that is coming this fall. And that we went forward with that, and that we were clear as a body that we thought that it would be appropriate, because it wasn't going to be something that was going to be able to be discussed at town meeting, that we should have a special informational meeting and a town meeting to discuss the purchase of this truck. Since that has, and we have agreed to that, since that has happened, I think there has been some reservations by some people on the board of whether or not that's appropriate given the proposed debt load that is, before us. So I think that there may be some further discussion on, the path that has been prescribed, as believe that that's the next step, is that, now we have the bond that we need to redo for the bridge number 7. And now we need to make a decision as far as if we're going to go forward with the idea that we need to replace this truck sooner than is scheduled, which would be in a year and a half. Do we want to take that step now and have that discussion, or do we want to hold, or what do we want to do? Because time is precious. So here we are. It's on the agenda to continue that discussion. So if anyone has anything that they would like to discuss about that, we should talk about it. Otherwise, it will be my opinion that we will have an informational meeting that will be either the same time or very close to the informational meeting that we'll have to have regarding Bridge 7, and we will hold the vote at the same time that we had for redoing the Bridge 7, just to be consistent. I don't see why we would have 2 separate votes at 2 separate times. It wouldn't be a good use of, funds and resources for the town to do it, at different times. So if there's no discussion, then that's the path that we are going to continue to go on. If there's reservation, then I think this is the time to say, I think we should rethink this. So I'll open it up to the floor if there's anyone that has anything that they'd like to say about that.
I just had a question for Brad in terms of making sure that that prescribed path was what would work. And I know I think you'd had a chance to talk to Sherry about the logistics of the timing, and if that would work in terms of the warning and doing both of those 2 things together.
Yeah, it makes, if you're going to entertain a new truck, you'd want to do it at the same time, for sure. Mm-hmm. But what I see here is, if you did entertain this stock truck, you would be taking delivery of it this year without voter approval. So you can't do that. We can't commit. We can't just take the truck and then try to get the loan approved next year. That would be disingenuous. So, but what you really need to know is if you did take possession of the truck in the fall, when would the first payment be due? And if it's a year from now, that needs to be clearly stated on the warning. Like I would clearly state, and whether you do a lease or a purchase, same thing really. If you're leasing to purchase, it's a purchase. So the warning would say something like, shall the voters approve $305,000 for the purchase or lease of a new tandem axle dump truck. The other option, I guess, that you would have is if you added it onto the vote, you could just set the time parameters any way you wanted to. If you wanted to go, I think Russ talked about and maybe I'll let Russ talk about the ordering of the truck, how that plan differs, but then you could word the warning accordingly, I would think, going that avenue. Because what I'm not sure about is, you talked about before, if you order the truck and then the chassis comes in, we need to pay for the chassis. So if the chassis was going to come in before the next annual meeting, and you were committed to paying for that, even if it was, in say next spring or next summer, you probably still have to put something on for this time in order to make that happen. So really you need to know which way you're going to go, the stock truck or order another truck. And I just have a question for us here. So either option would be an estimate of 9-month completion for the body equipment. So it's 9 months for the body.
Correct. It's 9 months from the date that when the chassis arrives in Jericho.
So the chassis would arrive if you went the October 25. The body wouldn't be ready for 9 months?
Correct.
So you're going to go through next winter
We'd have to go through next winter with this current truck.
With the current truck. But with the payment, I guess my question is, when the chassis comes in, then you need to have the money.
Right. The dealer needs to be paid for the chassis. If we order a truck, the dealer needs to be paid for the chassis once it arrives in Jericho. If we do a stock unit, they will allow payment to be made when the truck is completed in the fall. But if it's an ordered unit specifically for us, when the chassis arrives, we have to pay for the chassis. And then 9 months from there, roughly, if everything goes to plan, then we would have to pay for the body and equipment portion of that at that time.
So why wouldn't we order a stock unit?
Exactly. That would be the right move for us, is to put our name solely on a stock unit and have a new truck ready to go in the fall. And
well, would the body be ready in the fall too?
Yeah,
okay. That's where I'm confused.
This truck will be complete. A stock unit would be complete in the fall, ready to go.
If we did the stock unit that's ready in the fall, full payment would be due in the fall. Is that right?
Correct.
So it wouldn't be a year later that the first payment's due.
Well, what we have done in the past is when we take delivery of the truck, the loan is done where first payment is made 1 year from date of delivery.
Got it.
That's the first payment.
Okay, thank you.
So no money out of pocket at that point.
Same with the lease, with the 21 lease. We just barely, I think, made the first payment on that, and we got that a year ago, right? So.
Okay, thank you.
But typically, we do the truck order once we've got voter approval to move forward, right? Is that correct?
Say the question again.
The question is, do we typically ask for voter approval and then we start making the request to order the stock body? Because once we order the chassis or the body, you're kind of committed. You get one toe in the pond here, you're going to get wet.
Well,
You
in,
can't
in,
not
in the
get wet in
past,
this.
what we've been able to do with the dealer is they're able to order the truck subject to town meeting approval. So because
In
it
the event
takes,
it's not approved, then we're not on the
right,
hook
like we
for-
did the last truck, it was all subject to voter approval. So if it doesn't pass a town meeting, then they keep the truck and then they sell it to somebody else.
They'll always have somebody lining up
Exactly.
for the body.
Yep.
Okay,
We
okay.
typically
So it's-
put our name on a truck like 2 years in advance.
Okay,
So
so
we say,
we're
yeah,
not getting out ahead of the voters and committing the voters to something that they haven't voted on. That's I just want to make sure
toe's not in the water.
the toe isn't in the water. We're still sitting on the sideline waiting
still on
to
the
get
dock.
wet.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're
I
just
just wanna-
first in line at the edge.
I want to make sure, exactly. We
So
can go to the end
yeah.
of the line.
It's just due to lead times of getting a truck.
so I just have the question about
Okay.
the other option. If you ordered the truck, like now, with no commitment, right? The chassis would come in when, do you think?
Well, there's two options of chassis that we could order. There's one of the chassis, which is called the HX model, which is like the stock unit. Those are building quicker and could be built in June of this year. Then it takes 2 to 4 weeks roughly to get the truck from the factory to here. The HV model, like we currently are running, those are building in October. And then again, another 2 to 4 weeks to deliver to Vermont.
But then the box, how does the box play into that?
So how that works out is once the truck arrives, we can place the order with the body company, but they will not process it until the truck is in Jericho, and then it takes 9 months from the time the truck arrives to the time it's complete, which is estimated at 9 months.
So I just have one quick question, and then I'll have my head straight. So the other option, you're saying the HX truck has a June build, so why wouldn't the box be the same 9 month?
It is.
It is.
It is.
So either way, you're going through next winter with what you got.
If we order.
Well,
If we don't, if we
okay.
go with the stock unit, the truck is being built in April, I believe.
With the box.
Coming in April, and or their completion dates are expected to be in the fall, prior to winter.
So if we do the stock truck, we have that for next winter.
We have a truck ready to go.
If we order either of the two models that we could order, would still mean no truck next winter.
Correct.
So what is the downside of going through next winter with that truck? Because it appears that Dwayne did a pretty good job of fixing said truck and that it works. And that truck will be basically mostly idle this summer and not used because Dwayne's on the excavator. So what is the downside of using that truck? Aside from maybe a few repairs that need to be made.
The biggest downside to it, Dan, would be, in my eyes, is yes, he's repaired it to the best of his ability. We feel it's a Band-Aid because the structural steel of the body is weakened and patched. I look at it as a hot air balloon. You know, it's got a rip in the balloon and you put a Band-Aid on it. And how excited are you going to be to get into that basket and go up in the air? You know, yeah, it's got a Band-Aid on it. So if the truck fails on us again, and when it failed last time, it stopped working completely. So wherever that decides to let go, if it does again, maybe it won't. It's a chance that we take. Where is he when that happens? Is he pulling Blakey Road? Is he pulling Downs Road? And all of a sudden it breaks and things stop and you don't have material going where it needs to go and you're going the wrong way. To me, we're up at 2:30 in the morning to make these roads safe, to get the school buses around, to get your folks to work. in a safe manner. That's our job. And we need the right equipment to do that job. Yes, we have a spare truck. For instance, we had an incident the other morning where we had to be down. Luckily, Bob was just getting back from a fire call and was up, and I knew it. So Bob was kind enough to go get Scott, get him back to the town garage, get the truck, get it loaded, get things ready, and go back out. Well, that puts you behind about an hour. And that is, you can't do it these days. You've got to be going. You know, if you have a truck that's down and you've got the spare truck and it's ready to go, and you get in there at 3 in the morning and you jump in it and go, that's all great. But you've got to have primo equipment on the road to do this job. And the truck is nickel and diming us every day. And downtime is key. And you can't have it. So that's my fear. I'm here to do a job, and those 3 other guys are here to do a job. And they do it with the utmost respect. And we need top-notch equipment.
Did we have an independent inspection or analysis of the truck?
On the repairs that we made?
Or, you know, on all the safety stuff that you're talking about, because you're talking about a catastrophic thing happening.
I don't think that's ever been discussed until right now.
Yeah.
We've never asked for an independent evaluation of the truck to be done. If that's something that the board would want, then we should, you know, look into that.
I think that's a separate, it's maybe a good suggestion, but it's a separate path to go down. I just want to echo something that Russ said about, you know, you guys hit the road about 3 a.m. You know, we were out packing the dogs up for a trip about 2 weeks ago, and you guys were going by. So if you delayed that about an hour and a half, and then we came up the hill, the roads would have been, you know, just piled with snow. And it's not just me personally. I'm thinking about the school buses, people going to work. People are just not as tolerant in this current 2025 year as they were 10, 20, 30 years ago. They want the roads plowed so they can get to work or wherever they're going, and the tolerance level is not there. And I agree with you that we need to be on it so the first pass is done so people can get to their destination. And you guys are out at 3 a.m. for the first pass.
Not all the residents. My son doesn't like it when the schools are open, and they've been open all year round. The school,
Counting on that
I think we've
snow
only had 1 or 2 snow days, so he's not very happy about that. Russ has been doing too good of a job.
But you mentioned one of the new trucks went down today. So all trucks go down. Is that correct? You said.
Okay, all right.
I'm
So,
just saying.
yes.
So let's
yes,
not just gang up
no.
on the old trucks. It's the new trucks too that go down. Well, it's a fact of reality, right? So,
I'm not going to kick a dead horse any further.
Okay.
We've had this discussion many times.
At the same time,
New trucks can break down,
Yep.
yes, but are they apt to break down as often as an older truck? No. Yes, the truck is down right now. Could we have kept running it? Probably not, because of what the issues it had. But, so luckily, we were able to get it in, and we're not dealing with snow right now.
So I think I'm going to end the discussion on this unless someone wants to make a motion that we have committed to the fact that we are going to, and I'm going to break this into its simplest components. We have agreed that we are going to we're going to go down the path of getting a stock truck. If that is not the path that this board wants to go on, then a motion would be appropriate at this time to be made that we not go down this path. Otherwise, we're going to move on to the next point, which is holding a special town meeting and informational meeting. So I want to clear that hurdle first. So this is the time, if someone wants to make a motion not to go forward with ordering the stock truck, then this would be the time to say so.
I would, one of the holes I think that in our discussion last time, I would like a real financial comprehensive analysis on the town's liability, given the fact that we're getting another truck from the treasurer and the finance officer, and we haven't had that ability to see.
I think Steve had the town meeting or the long-term liabilities, and we could,
I believe the last Jennifer did do.
yeah, there was some, yeah, if I could just borrow your town report for a minute. So in the annual report, if we look under long-term liabilities, hang on a minute, page 20. So what will be added to this will be the new truck, which next fiscal year will be added. But we do have a small note for the 350, the F-350 that'll be taken off. That's 28,000. And then the 2022 international truck will be off in 26. So I guess theoretically, some of it would balance out. And then we have, then you'll have the question, you know, of the 21 lease, whether to purchase that truck or give it back. Right. So if you decided to purchase it, there's a final payment due of $40,000. Either way, you will be adding to the debt, but there'll be some small things coming off.
Okay, so
I'd like to also just say that there is probably
20 of the town report.
there is probably some adjustments that could be also done in the next budget cycle of maintenance as well, where we'll have all at next year, if we had all 4 new trucks, they would be all still under warranty. So we could potentially lower our maintenance budget down some to counteract some of that truck payment as a possibility.
all right, so to keep us somewhat on a path, does that answer your question, or do you want to make that a motion that we hold off until we get a budget analysis from Sherry and Jennifer?
Personally, I would like to see that kind of a discussion
So do you,
first.
so do you
But
want,
I'm, you know, I certainly would want to hold off in doing it. I don't want to put us in jeopardy either way, but I'm all in favor of what Nate was saying at the town meeting about shortening what our timeline is on the trucks to keep within the warranty. But we need to do that in a gradual enough way so that the taxpayers don't have a huge hump at some point. And I'm concerned that that might happen.
okay, so I hear you loud and clear, but we're on a path, and the path is right now, the path that we're on is that we have signaled that we are going to get a stock truck. So if we're not going to go on this path anymore, and we're going to stop, then someone needs to make that motion that we stop, because it impacts many things. If I'm not going to hear a motion that we stop, then we're going to move on to the next step, which is going to be to discuss a special town meeting. I'm going to call it once. I'm going to do it 3 times. So here's once. Now this is the second time I'm calling for it. And now I'm doing it the 3rd time. So I haven't heard anyone say that we're stopping. So we're moving forward. So the next step is discuss a special town meeting regarding that stock truck. We've preliminarily said that now that we have to redo the bond vote for bridge number 7, it would likely happen at the same time. And that same thing would be about the informational meeting would be on or about the same time.
Yeah, so it'd be both. We're grouping both questions up together, but I think you need to be very specific. I would suggest writing an explanation of why the truck is warranted or needed at this time for the voters to understand. Something Russ could probably work on, just a very thorough analysis of where you've been, what's happened. Explain that the truck was due to be replaced in 28 and why we're 27. Okay, well, replaced in 27 and why we're, well, again, that would be fiscal year. That'd be the next year the payment would come on, but yeah, just explain the circumstances, right? So the voters know. And we'll do the same with the bridge. So I think what I'd like to do is have both of those questions prepared. And I would, if you're not sure if you want to go to the lease or the borrowing of the money, you just word it so it's either to borrow or lease, the truck.
I
So,
have faith and trust that between you and Russ and Jennifer, that you will come up with a preliminary draft to come back to us on, the different options that are available in which way we're going to go.
well, I don't think
Regarding
you
the
need to-
informational,
Yeah.
for an informational meeting, like you're going to explore that further and report back to us now that you have more of a clearer direction from the board that we're going on this path, we're continuing to walk down it. Then the next step is that iron those details out and have a final recommendation to the board.
Yeah.
So that we can have a more intelligent conversation when it comes time for the informational meeting for the public to weigh in on.
Yeah, so basically, it doesn't matter how we get the money. The big thing is to get voter approval to purchase a truck.
Correct.
Whether we lease it or we,
Right.
Or we borrow the money,
And
either way.
show the pluses and minuses of that. And I trust that you'll be able to do
yeah,
that
it'd
with
be
the information.
Sherry and myself and Russ would work through that. And so that would be my suggestion, is to have a warning that would be in front of you for the 27th, along with the resolution, the necessity resolution again, and then a timeline stamped out with the exact procedure of what we need to follow.
I just want to make sure that I'm very clear that when we go forward with this process, that this is going to include any parts and pieces that are necessary if we're going to go forward with this truck. I certainly do not want to have a conversation later about not being able to pay for a valve that we need to have or something along those lines. That this vote would include all the necessary equipment that would be needed for a plow truck.
Well, then you have the question, I guess, right, of you have a plow frame now that's fairly new. I guess that would be you'd have to recommend whether to keep that plow frame or, because that price you had for the 305 included the plow frame, right? So,
Okay.
we'll get that ironed out.
Yep. All right.
I
Moving
believe
forward.
that the whole process will enable the voters to see that kind of financial analysis that I was talking about.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling okay about that.
Yep.
And I'd like to pick up on the possibility of decreased cost if we have trucks that are covered by warranty. And that information be included as we're presenting it. And then perhaps clarification of, or if just for us, of a better understanding of estimates of what costs would be that aren't under warranty.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so we're on to the third bullet point, which is consider the dump truck tire purchase.
All right, it's tire time again. So I'd like to get permission to purchase 2 new steer tires for the 2022 dump truck. The truck has been running the originals until this day. We don't run them in the winter, but summer, and they are wore out, and we only run new tires on the front, not any caps. in the summer months. So that is due for new tires, as well as we need to send in 8 rear tires to be recapped, which is a kind of an ongoing thing that we have to do. So I did get 3 different prices for the purchase of tires from Pete's Tire Barn, New England Tire, and Marshall Tire. And our recommendation is to purchase from Marshall Tire in the amount of $3,762.90, which that should be in your packet.
So before we take a motion, I wanted to make a comment. Everyone received the memo from Russ, and we briefly talked about it tonight about the near miss with Scott on Route 15 and having one of these recapped front tires blow. Thankfully, we have an employee that has many years of experience operating a piece of equipment that size, was able to maintain control of that piece of equipment and staying in his lane and not taking out an oncoming traffic on Route 15, and was able to bring it safely to a stop and get it off from Route 15. I have thanked Scott for maintaining control of that, because that could have been disastrous if it had hit somebody or if he'd gone off the road and, damaged himself and or the truck. I think that the practice of using recapped tires on the front steering tires of our equipment days are numbered. They're not allowed on commercial vehicles at all. It's one thing on the rear end, but not on the steering end of the trucks. So I have signaled to Russ that I think they're numbered and that we should start to begin to look at what it's going to cost to remove those, because I think we're on borrowed time. We got very, very fortunate a couple days ago with this event. And I don't want to see us, get into a situation where, these trucks' tires blow because we're putting on recapped, retread tires, and then have an incident where it takes somebody's family out or, one of our people. So tires are important.
I agree.
So I don't know how many other tires in the fleet are on steering tires are retread type tires. But I'm hoping that you'll come back, if we have any more that are in use, that you'll come back with a subsequent memo to look at, for the board to consider getting those tires out of circulation. And I don't know if those tires can be used, in the back, and not used as steering tires, or they're only good for steering tires or what, but
So
I'm hoping you'll be able to tell me
I'll
more.
explain just a little bit further, and thank you, Bob, for saying this. So as a municipality, we are exempt from not being able to run cap tires on the steer axle. Any commercial truck you see on the road, school buses, so on, it is not legal for them to run caps on the front. And the only reason we have been is because it's a traction tire, and to be able to get traction when trying to turn on slippery roads, a regular steer tire does not work. So that's why we've been doing that. And I've thought about it many times, even through the years in my past history of work, because I have seen it happen in the past. It doesn't happen a lot, but like Bob said, when it does happen, it could be very, very bad. So we did have that discussion at the garage with the guys, and we all thought it was a good idea to be running new tires on the front and not caps, even though we haven't really had a tremendous amount of problems. But all the trucks currently run caps on the front during the winter months. A new traction tire is, $700, almost $800 a piece versus, $220 a piece for a cap. So, there you go, trying to save money may not be a good place to save money.
Is a traction tire one you would use in the winter or year round?
Just in the winter months, Dan, for being able to turn on slippery going. So
I think Bob brings a really good point. If the commercial world doesn't allow it, then I don't think we should be doing it either in terms of a safety practice. And it just takes one event to have a catastrophe, and it washes away any perceived value of savings. If the commercial world can't do it, we shouldn't do it.
I appreciate that support.
So a motion regarding the tire would probably be in order.
I have one more question. Are the price quotes, do these include taxes? Is this a final number?
No taxes.
We don't pay
all
That's
taxes.
right. Okay. So this is a final number?
Yes, I tried to put in everything from right down to valve stems and
Okay.
so on.
You're going to make a motion.
All right. I move that we approve the purchase quote from Marshall Tire for the 2 new steer tires and the 8 rear drive tires requested by Russ. Oh, sorry, Kat.
Motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of the awarding the tire purchase through Marshall Tire as presented, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed with a nay? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
All right, I guess the last thing we have, Russ, for you in the hot seat is consider the Signpost purchase.
Yeah, so we are completely out of Signpost, and we need to get some more back in inventory. We have been purchasing through the years Signpost from WorkSafe and Barrie, which is kind of convenient than having to drive down and pick them up, but not too bad. While looking through the state contracts online, I found a company in Buffalo, New York, Eberl Iron, who has the state has a contract with for Signpost. So I contacted them to see if we could tag on to the state contract, and they said absolutely. So they gave us a quote, which it came back very nicely. So I was very pleased to be able to find that in the contract listing. So there is no freight to get them here. That's all freight prepaid. And so I did get 3 prices from Rice Signs out of Alabama. That's where we get our road signs, street road sign names, and so on. And then WorkSafe down in Barrie. So you can see considerable savings from Eberl Iron. And we were able to get an account set up with them. So we're ready to go with that. So just hopefully we can get your approval to purchase 25 post and 25 bases in the amount of $1,768.75.
A motion to approve that would be in order.
I'll make the motion that we approve the purchase of 25 signposts and 25 bases from Eberl Iron of Buffalo, New York, in the amount of $1,768.75.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I just want to commend you, Russ, for tracking down this new supplier and being able to find some at such a great price. So thank you for doing the work.
I know sometimes I come to spend a lot of money, but I do my due diligence and try to get the best deal for the town because it's important. So.
Thank you.
Question. Is the base what goes into the ground and then the post attaches onto that?
Yeah, it's a 3-foot base that we have that signpost driver that we purchased. So that drives into the ground and then the signpost goes into it and bolts into it. It's called a breakaway. So if a car should happen to hit it, it breaks off at the base.
Would these work well to discourage UVM students from stealing speed limit signs on Pleasant Valley Road if we got a couple more?
Is that what a speed sign is?
It wasn't
stolen
UVM.
again?
It was,
No, it's not stolen again. It's just not working. So we're going to send it back, get a quote. So
I'm using a little bit of little colorful. I apologize to any of the University of Vermont alumni, but we did have a unfortunate incident with some folks that felt it was their duty to take our precious speed limit sign down.
I would like to ask just one more question while I have your attention.
Did you vote on that?
We did not vote
Oh,
yet
I'm
on
sorry.
that motion.
We're still discussing.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Any other discussion? Not yet. Here we go. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Now we can talk about,
Just one quick thing of a direction. I'd like to know how you want to go. After Scott's incident, we did get an estimate for repairs for the truck and so on in the tune of $4,547.53. Didn't know if you wanted to go forward with an insurance claim or if we wanted to pay out of pocket.
what is our deductible?
1,000, I believe.
Is that a covered event?
It's an accident.
I would think, given that it was a malfunction of the equipment causing an altercation.
They're probably going to want to see some information that was suggested on the insurance audit, but if you want to do that, I guess you can.
I can do whatever. I just didn't know how you wanted to.
I'm of the opinion that we leave well enough alone.
Okay.
We have enough with the League of Cities and Towns with litigation right now that I think that we could probably absorb that $3,000. If that's what we're looking at getting, I think it may cost us a lot more in premium dollars that we absorb that cost and move on. But if others feel differently, then we can certainly do that. But I think we are getting a huge benefit from the litigation the town is involved in right now and having passive pay for that we should probably, hold our insurance for events that are more catastrophic than that tire incident.
I will just say that this is covering parts and labor, painting for the fender and so on. But this is things that we could get the parts, get them painted, and we could do the repairs in-house too. We could change the parts. So this is just something I didn't know if you wanted to or not to cover that, but we will. I understand that and I'm good with that, I think, but I
don't know what Jennifer's thought is on this, if this is something that she would have to weigh in on. I know she's on vacation right now though, but.
It's really I think it's a Sherry thing with
Sherry,
insurance.
okay.
Yeah. You just, I would recommend taking Bob's approach, but that's up to you.
I'm fine with that too. I just wanted to ask the question.
Yeah, one question. It's a good point, Bob. And we may want to consider raising our deductible if we're not going to plan to use it below a certain threshold, self-insure that low stuff so we don't pay for it.
Well, we've had several. We had an incident, I think. We've had a couple incidents where we've had to rely on our insurance. So
Right, but having like a $5,000 deductible is like, for
Yeah.
homeowners, many homeowners have a $5,000 deductible. The
Yeah.
town
We
should
could-
have a higher deductible.
We could ask Sherry to talk with the league and find out, what the savings would be if we were to explore different deductibles.
Yeah, I'd like to see
And
that.
then see, if it's worth it, type of thing.
I would like to ask Sherry to do that.
Can
see
you
if
do
there's-
that, Brad? If that's the
Yeah.
consensus of the group that we ask, that you ask Sherry if she could get a little report together for us to see how much what the price difference would be for us if we were to
Sure.
explore different deductibles. And I don't know if it's in $1,000 increments or, how that works. If the next one's $10,000 versus $1,000 or,
Right.
what it is. So,
we'll find out.
all right.
Okay.
Very good. Well, thanks, Russ.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Russ.
Next item on the agenda is to discuss goals and agenda items for the ensuing year.
So I didn't mean to lay this all on you, but I'll bring up a few things that we're going to have to do in future meetings here, just to start it off. So next meeting a lot of our committees need reappointments. So a lot of terms expire in March. So we'll be doing that the next meeting. We also have a local emergency management plan that we update every year. So we've got quite a few changes. Changes, I think, to the superintendent at the school. We've got a new fire chief. We've got new select board members. So we'll be looking at doing that before April. I know we had talked about looking at some roads for possible discontinuance. We also have, to discuss the potential sidewalk project. We'll be looking at RFPs or quotes to come in here for the renovation of this room, which might shock us when we get some of the prices, but we may have to do some prioritization and maybe just do a portion of it with the funds that are set aside. We'll also have painting quotes to look at for the building and the post office repairs. So those are a few things kind of coming up. We'll have FEMA is in the process of updating the maps for the flood hazard area. So we'll be looking at that coming up. And then also if this closing is successful on 12 Dumas Road, we're going to be looking at RFPs to destroy the building. We'll also be looking at Bridge 7 and the putting out the RFP for that. Russ and Mike Wazel and I met, and we're kind of bouncing around some ideas between crack sealing and doing more pavement repair, maybe. So those are just some upcoming things.
So
Busy year.
one of the goals that I'd like to do this year is that there are 5 of us on the board, and we have how many policies do we have, Brad, in the town of Underhill?
We've got quite a few. So
So what I would like to do is I would like to break those policies up, and that we all take, an equal share of them, have the summer or whatnot to review the ones that you're assigned to, and then, potentially get back this fall and look and see if there's any, if anyone has any recommendations of considering changing any of the policies that we do have, and kind of go from there, if that would make sense. That would be a goal of mine, is to have everyone kind of go through the policies to make sure that everything is still valid and current and what needs to be. For instance, parking on the other side of the road, Brad. Okay.
that's all right.
Did we ever pass the Class 4 road policy or adopt it?
You
or-
did. You accepted the
We
recommendations from
accepted the recommendations, but we didn't really finalize it, I don't think.
Well, you've finalized it, but since then you've
I've not taken action on it, on the recommendations.
and you've kind of steered away from some of the recommendations already. So, but there's certain, I would think we'd want to look at, some discontinuances in that process. We want to take them slowly because it can be costly legally. But I think there's some easy, no-brainer ones we can look at.
I think it's probably worth, we had maybe talked it last year at some point about there being sort of a side committee that would continue to move that forward. And I think probably a new version of that for this current slate of folks probably makes sense. And I'd be willing to volunteer to be a part of that, because I think it certainly warrants attention and action moving forward.
Okay. We can look into that.
One other item I wanted to mention in terms of agenda and goals for this next year is I want to make sure that we are also moving forward on the town garage. And I know we set aside money in the budget for starting to think through what needs to happen with the garage. And I want to just think that should be something we keep in mind.
Yep. So after the new budget comes into effect, then we can look into that. There'll be money set aside in the budget for that. And so that we can, start to look into an engineer or architectural firm to look at that.
Yeah, and that's not to prohibit you from putting out like an RFP right now, just contingent on that work wouldn't be able to start till July 1, that sort of thing. So
Sure. All right. Anything else?
no, I just have Jennifer's thing that was
Yep,
next.
that's next.
I'd have one thing. We had talked briefly, speaking of policies, the stop sign,
Yeah.
or maybe that's an ordinance, I guess. That we did the stop sign inventory and which ones are legal and which ones are not in town. I think before something happens at an intersection, we probably ought to prioritize getting our stop sign ordinance in place and getting our signs either updated or installed. But I'd like to see that happen. So,
Okay,
Thank you.
good point.
Brad, does it? Can we ask all the department heads to bring their, any items that they would want to see taking action on in the upcoming fiscal year? To put a list together? So like, we didn't think about that. If every department head could think about it, bring that list together, then we can have a centralized planning list.
Yeah, I'd say like we could take the DRB off that because they just review applications, but certainly the planning commission, they're working on rule changes that are going to be coming forward probably within this year. So we'll be looking at that and holding hearings. But yeah, we could reach out to the Recreation Committee and the Energy Committee and the others.
Right, and also
Conservation.
Jennifer, Sherry, Amanda, each of the staff level, if they've got things that they know are upcoming in the year, so we can just put them on a list so we can monitor.
Sure.
I think that's a great idea.
You're full of good ideas tonight.
We also will want to look at what our responsibility is on the town plan, because that's a,
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point, Dan. We need to use that as our guide. Of course, we're fulfilling one of those, a major part of that town plan by supporting the affordable housing project. There'll be a small item on the agenda next time for that. Yeah, that's a good point. We should look at that. No, we're going to leave that out until the work is done here because we're going to use it as a portal to get stuff out. So I got that figured out. So,
Okay.
You could paint it so it looks like a window.
well, the sash is at my house. I'm going to work on restoring
Another idea. Just boom.
glass and stuff.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, so Jennifer wanted me to read this. She just wanted to let you know that she reached out to the Preservation Trust of Vermont and applied for or actually we've been awarded a $500 grant to help defray the costs of Ryan Edwards, his design for this room. So
good.
she just wanted me to, says, Dear Jennifer, in preparation for renovation of the meeting space at Underhill Town Hall, the town hall has engaged the services of Ryan Edwards. Ryan worked with you to create the preliminary plans for the meeting hall. I'm pleased to inform you that the town of Underhill has been awarded $500 from the Robert Centerbow Fund Grant to help defray the cost of Ryan Edwards' services.
Can we put something on Front Porch Forum? I think when we are awarded something and there's good news that we should let the town know that we got something.
Sure, Jennifer can do that. Maybe she'll put out, I know she put the RFP notice out, but yeah, I'll tell her to
I
do
think that
that.
would be a good thing to do.
Sure.
It's a good idea. Everyone's full of good ideas
No,
tonight.
it's like abundant. All right, we got that closing comment period. We can go virtual and then we can come back inside. Hello, everyone.
I think Aaron has something.
Hi, Aaron.
Hey, I just have a quick question. Are you going to have a meeting to do the board reorganize thing that happens usually after town meeting?
Yeah, so, sorry, Aaron, we did that on Monday. No, was it Monday? Yes, we
Yeah,
did that
Monday.
Monday. It was a very short meeting. I took
Okay.
minutes. Was kind of uneventful, but yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
Okay. That was that. Anyway, so we'll come back inside. Steve, this would be a good time for closing public comment.
So again, I had a few observations, and I'd like to some answers. Can I get any answers from my observations from anybody?
Just for the public record, could you introduce yourself again?
Sure. It's all right. And so I want some answers to the questions I got as a taxpayer. I would like to know when we decided to go to 4 tandem trucks and who made that decision. We leased a single axle truck last fall. So now that truck has become a spare truck. And what good is it to spend whatever it was, $40,000 for that truck to sit and be a spare? I mean, can't we use one of the old tandems for a spare at some point? You know, I just don't get why we need 4 tandems in this town when we never had any. Can I get an answer from somebody on that?
Point of order. One thing that the public comment period is for the public to comment on,
Well,
not
I'm
open up a
commenting on
new,
it. Can I get an answer as to why?
not open up a new discussion.
Well, I'm opening up a new discussion on that.
So
When did we decide, Russ, can you tell me? Can you
So-
answer any questions?
Unless they decide that they want to have a discussion.
So what I
I mean, can
would,
we order 4 or 5 more trucks and nobody knows about it? Nobody in the public knows how many trucks you got up there and how many you're ordering. All you do is go one at a time and say, we need a new truck. Nobody knows what you're doing up there.
so what, I appreciate the comment. I understand, I hear the frustration coming from you. What I would welcome is that if you want to send the board a letter with your questions, we can do our best to answer the questions that you have back and get you the answers that you want. So that you are informed as far as where we're coming from with that.
Okay, so that's on any item, any issue I have right now?
You're welcome to send us the
Okay.
board, a letter as far as, I'd like to know the answers to these questions, and then we can
Will I
do our
get them
best.
answered?
I hope so.
Okay, thank you, that's fine.
I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't answer your question.
Well, I don't know why you can't answer them right now. What's the
Because
difference?
it's not the
You're all
appropriate,
together.
it's not the appropriate time to answer the question right now, because if I know all the questions of what you want to know, then we can research it and find out all the answers to your questions.
I think you know the answers right now. There's no
I-
research to be
well,
done.
Honestly, I don't want to get back into it back and forth, but I don't know the answers to all your questions. I know some of the answers to your questions, but I don't know them all. So that's why I'm asking
Well,
as
it's
the
pretty
chair.
simple answered, Bob, if you ask me.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll write you a
welcome.
letter. Thank
Okay.
you.
Is there any other public comment? All right. Next thing is to review and approve the warrants, approve the minutes of the February 27th, 2025 informational meeting and the regular meeting that followed. Also review and approve the March 3rd, 2025 emergency meeting and the March 10th organizational meeting. So I think I got all that stuff here. All right, I'm going to move that we approve the warrants dated March 10th, 2025. That's the payroll warrant. Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of authorizing the March 10th, 2025 warrant, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. Motion carries 5-0. Next item is the warrants dated, this one's dated, this is not the payroll warrant, regular warrant, dated March 10th, 2025. I move that we accept that. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of paying the, authorizing the warrants dated 3/10/2025, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is the warrant dated February 28th, 2025. I move that we accept that. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Ready for the question?
Yes.
All those in favor of authorizing the warrant dated February 28, 2025, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed with a nay? Motion carries 5-0. Next. Yep. Next is a warrant dated February 12th. This is the S&P&F attorneys for the Dumas Road.
No, we already did that.
Where I just have to sign it. So everyone has to sign this. We don't have to, okay. Next is the meeting minutes for the informational hearing on February 27th, 2025. I move that we accept that. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I'm going to abstain because I was absent.
Okay, so we'll do a roll call vote. If everyone's ready for the question, all those in favor, please, Bob Stone, aye.
Dan Steinbauer, aye.
Patty Richards, abstain.
Maureen Collins-Kolb, aye.
Shara Tarule, abstain.
Motion carries 3-0 to 2. Today is the 13. Next is the select board meeting minutes for February 27th. I move that we accept those meeting minutes as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I'm going to abstain. This is Patty Richards.
Okay, so we'll do another roll call vote. Bob Stone, aye.
Dan Steinbauer, aye.
Patty Richards, abstain.
Maureen Collins-Kolb, aye.
Shara Tarule, abstain.
Motion carries 3-0 to 2. Okay. Next is the emergency select board meeting held in person on March 3rd, 2025. I move that we accept those meeting minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I'm going to abstain. This is Patty Richards. Because
Okay.
I was absent.
So all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes of the March 3rd emergency meeting, please. Bob Stone, aye.
Dan Steinbauer, aye.
Patty Richards, abstain.
Maureen Collins-Kolb, aye.
Shara Tarule, abstain.
Motion,
Dan Steinbauer, your microphone was off on that last vote. I'm sure they probably heard you, but it might be worth saying again.
Dan Steinbauer, aye.
so motion carries 3-0 to 2. And last but not least, this is the organizational select board meeting minutes for March 10th. I move that we accept those meeting minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Here.
What was the end result of that?
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. The results of that was I was, I guess, reaffirmed or reappointed as the chair and Patty as the vice chair.
And just for
And
the
7
record,
days will continue to be our official newspaper circulation. And Shara is an excellent cook, and she said she was going to bring cookies or grapes or something in the next meeting.
I
that was
failed
about
on
it.
my
I don't-
first day. I remembered this as I was leaving the
That's all right.
house. I have next week to make, or next
Yeah,
week.
that's right. You'll
I've
be able
never
to,
brought cookies, so.
you can park next to Dan or Brad's truck on the other side of the road for next time. That's
We're
all
all
right.
gonna be over there.
That's right, eventually, you know.
I'll be the one with the camel cover.
That's right. So back to approving these meeting minutes. That was the result of that. Any, it's been moved, it's been seconded. Any more discussion? Hearing none. Ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed with a nay. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, so now we're at the point of member items, correspondence, announcement schedule. The next regular scheduled select board meeting is for March 27th, 2025. Does anybody have anything?
I will not be in attendance for March 27th.
I'm disappointed as always when you're not here.
I will be
We will
on
miss
the
you.
road.
I have a question for the board.
We'll miss you.
I have just learned about the League of Cities and Towns. They have a new select board training, and if people have attended it and think it's worth my Saturday.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah,
I haven't.
I
should.
couldn't,
would
I
like
couldn't
to.
recommend it.
I recommend it highly
Yeah.
Great.
as
Yeah.
well.
And go in person if you can, I think,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I did it myself and it was years ago, but it was good.
Okay.
How often do they put it on?
After town meeting,
Is this once a year?
yeah,
very
I
good.
think so. It's usually,
It's good to,
I've never been.
yeah,
So
you
It's-
should go too.
you should
Oh, we could
go.
all go.
It's a
It's Saturday, the 22nd in Montpelier,
It's next Saturday then.
It's at the Capitol Plaza.
at the
probably.
Capitol
Yeah,
Plaza.
that's where
Yeah.
I did mine. It's good.
Maureen, you could go too.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. I feel like I ought to. So I'm
Well,
glad you mentioned that.
Maybe we'll carpool.
Okay.
And then
You
I guess my
can't talk about
next
anything
question is,
important.
as a select board member, do I have a different access to the League of Cities and
Yes, you do.
Towns?
So you should
Okay,
be
so
getting
once I
that-
get everything
Once you
set
get
up.
that email going,
Yeah,
you'll probably find something in your email asking you to register and log in.
yep, thank you.
So
And
we've
we'll-
already got your name into PLCT, so
Great, I've already tried to go and get their select board handbook, but couldn't.
we have a copy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? I hope that you will all join in wearing something green on St. Patrick's Day.
Of course.
I know Russ is going to, I plan on doing and following suit, but I hope the rest of you have
Sort of green.
something green to wear. And again, I commend Scott.
Thank goodness it was okay.
Yep. That was a tricky ride, to say the least.
See, if you travel Route 15, you'll notice a black mark about a foot wide and about 100 feet long. Which you would think that he was going too fast, but that storm that morning was very light, and Route 15, it just blew off with the traffic. So our side roads had snow on them, but Route 15 was bare. So luckily, it was not a slippery event, so that's why the black mark, he was going along, but
We're very, very fortunate.
we're very fortunate, and said about Scott and all the guys, they're good. Just somebody's watching over him.
Right. Well, this is, it used to be Dan Kelsey's favorite time of the meeting, but now I'll have to say it's somebody else's. Maybe it's Patty's, I don't know. We'll have to see. But a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I move we adjourn.
Patty moves. Is there a second?
I second.
It's not debatable. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. It is now 7:39. We're 9 minutes past due, but I think that's okay.
Pretty good.
We can stop the recording now. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.